field now. 2 balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. This is one back. Walk the ball. Chris Taylor.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Blake Williams here, less than 24 hours away from Game 1 of the NLDS between the Dodgers and the Padres. Matt Moreno going to be joining us a little later in the show with some boots on the ground information about workouts and stuff today. But Blake, welcome. Happy Friday to you. My Oregon Ducks currently playing, by the way, winning. Just need to keep pounding the rock. But more important than all of that, Blake, with 24 hours to go, how are we feeling?
A little tired already. Not totally locked in for the series yet. It's been a lot of work so far leading up to it with all the interviews and going to the stadium and everything. There's only Matt there today, so I got a little bit of a break, but that's why he's going to be on later with us. So it's a lot going on so far, but I'm sure once the actual game is starting, we'll start to lock in and feel a little bit more of the excitement and energy of it, and probably some of the nerves too.
I was going to ask, like, when these games start, what's Blake Williams, what energy, what emotions do you feel? Is it, you said the word excitement, is it entirely excitement? Is there anxiety? Is there, like, where are we at?
I'm pretty confident in the team, so I do want to say excitement. At the same time, like, you know me with talking about playoffs, I'm always, it's going to be a flip a coin. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's a lot riding on these games. I think it would be very annoying just from that sense if the Dodgers end up losing the series, just dealing with the Padres fans. I know a lot of Dodger fans in the replies to us can also be a little, like, emotional about it sometimes too. So either way, it's going to bring out a lot of emotions and should be fun.
Well, and this goes to what Shohei Ohtani was asked about today. He was asked if he was nervous, and he's basically like, this is something I've been dreaming about my whole life. And I just like the way he put it, where it's basically like, so that outweighs any anxiety. It's not to say I'm not anxious, but there is more excitement than there is anxiety. And I think for all fans, it feels like those two things in some differing degree of weights. When the game is close, when the game is tied, I have found myself as time goes on getting more and more anxious. And even I would say Dave Roberts kind of hinted at this in some of the comments he's made of late too, Blake, in Fabian Ardai's article on The Athletic, where he was kind of like, with the level of expectations that there are, it almost sounds like there is more anxiety than there is enjoyment for Dave Roberts in at least in the regular season. And I resonate with that because it feels like a don't screw up situation way more than like, we're just happy to be here.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the mood every year. It's probably heightened a bit more this year after the offseason they had with Shohei now here and Yamamoto. Like, the expectations last year were, well, they were still high. It was a lot different than what they are this year. Their offseason last year was JD Martinez and David Peralta and Noah Syndergaard. And this year it's
how could you forget Noah Syndergaard, Blake? His impact, his forever impact on the organization.
Well, because they traded him for Ahmed Rosario, and then they brought him back, so it's like they never really left, and then they got rid of him again. So, a lot going on there, but I don't know. Like, I get Dave being more nervous about it. The regular season for the Dodgers, it is what it is. We all know they're going to win 95-plus games every year, if not 100. They've mastered the regular season. They know how to win the division every year. They just need to get over the hump now in the playoffs and win a full season World Series, because that's what everyone expects from them. So I get it. And Roberts, he needs a contract extension here soon. I'm sure that's in the back of his mind somewhere.
Yeah, it's a fascinating dynamic. And I see the people in the chat kind of resonating with this, Matty Man saying, hey, I hope they don't play not to lose. That's how I feel. I'm not saying that's how the players feel, although I'm sure there are plenty of folks who would make the case that in watching the Dodgers in some of the years past, it feels like they are playing with sort of like there's almost nothing to gain and everything to lose, because if they win, well, they should win. And if they lose, then the sky is falling and it's catastrophe. And again, I don't think that's wrong. Like, I think the expectations are what they are. I agree with your assessment of the postseason and how random these things can be. But we also know that when you spend this money and you put together this team and you have the best record in baseball, even with the pitching injuries, that the expectations are what the expectations are. And so it's going to be exciting, to say the least, over the next 5 or 6 days, however long this series lasts. And again, as always, we will be here. I'll be on the post-game show for game 1. I believe you and Scott will be on the post-game show for game 2. And then we've got some rotating folks coming in for 3, 4, and 5 if necessary. So Blake, in order to preview this, I wrote down kind of 6 categories that I want to rapid fire. We've done a lot of these shows, and the easy question has been like, who's going to be the X factor? I'm going to break it down in some different categories here and talk more specifically than that. So rather than just one player for the entire series, I'm going to ask specifics. So, for example, which starting pitcher for the Dodgers do you think makes the best start at some point in the NLDS? So obviously, I'll allow Landon Knack as a bulk guy to count as a starter for this exercise. But if you had to choose Yamamoto, Flaherty, Buehler, or Knack, which of those 4 guys do you feel most confident is going to give a good performance for the Dodgers in this series?
It's Yamamoto, in my opinion. I was in the chat one time, the last time you were on, I think, and I was saying Yamamoto is going to be a sub 2.5 ERA guy in the playoffs. Maybe I said sub 3, but he's going to be really good in the playoffs. Whatever the specifics of that number are, who knows? But I have a lot of faith in him. I think he's one of the best pitchers in baseball when he's actually healthy and on the field, which he has been for most of his career in Japan. And he, of course, had that setback with the Dodgers, but it seems like he's fully bounced back from that. So I fully believe in him. They don't have any real restrictions on him going forward into the playoffs here. They might keep him on his once a week rest schedule, but they're kind of backing off from that as well. So I think Yamamoto is going to be the workhorse for this pitching staff and carry them through the playoffs.
Do you think Yamamoto makes it past 5.0 innings pitched?
Yes.
Okay. I like it. I'm with you. I was confused initially as to why Flaherty was 1 and Yamamoto was 2, simply because Yamamoto, I think, is their best pitcher. And I'm not going to say it's by a wide margin. I just think he's the best pitcher. Now, I know his last 2 outings, 8 innings, 6 earned runs, 12 base runners, have not been amazing. But from a potential perspective, I think he's clearly the best option here. Just out of curiosity, would you have Buehler or Flaherty second on this list?
Flaherty. I always tend to go with talent over other factors that might play into it. I know Buehler's the big game pitcher throughout his career, but Flaherty's been better for quite a while now. And that's due to Buehler's injury, but I need to see more from Buehler still before I fully trust him, even though he is trending up. Yeah. And I know Flaherty, there's concerns about the velocity and all that, but even while he didn't have his best velocity, he was still turning in quality starts every time. So I have a lot of faith in the top 2 Dodgers pitchers. And to what you said about Yamamoto not being that much better than Flaherty, potentially, I would say he is. I think Yamamoto is a top 5 pitcher in baseball.
Right now.
Wow.
Okay. Because look, I think there's potential for it. I just think he's made 4 starts since coming back. And I just said he's given up 6 earned runs in his last 8 innings. And so I think from a talent perspective, I'm not totally in disagreement with you. I love that you're getting there. You don't need to see it. You're just going to believe it. And I'm here for it. I'm with you, by the way. Flaherty, Buehler, and then I think Knack would be 4th for me. We do have a super chat here from Carolina. Carolina, thank you for the super chat. We appreciate it. She said, I'm sure you've heard Musgrove needs Tommy John surgery. What do we know about which game Michael King will open for? Let's talk Musgrove really quick. We knew, I shouldn't say, there was suspicion that this was going to be the news when a guy leaves a game the way that Musgrove left it. It does feel like, as bad as the Dodgers starting pitching situation is, that things have become a bit more even with Musgrove being out. I would say both teams have a couple guys they probably feel pretty good about, one guy who they would have felt good about 5 years ago, and then a 4th guy that you kind of just shrug your shoulders and say bullpen game / bulk game. We'll see. I'm not comparing. I would still probably take King and Cease over Yamamoto and Flaherty. And again, you can make a case that Darvish over Buehler as well. But I think things are a little bit more even on the starting pitching side. Do you agree with that, Blake?
I do. I think there is a case that the Dodgers are lined up better with their starting pitching now than the Padres are after that wild card series. I think you could make a case that the Dodgers have a better pitching staff lined up for this series and the Padres, like their top, I would say Yamamoto and Cease match up incredibly well there. You could give the edge to either one there, so it's kind of a toss-up. I would give the Dodgers the edge with Flaherty over Darvish. Michael King, to answer the next question, is supposed to go game 3. So the Padres have the edge there with Walker Buehler versus King. And then I think it's Perez going in game 4 for them.
Perez.
So I think
if they don't go bullpen game, I don't know if they've announced that, but he's kind of their 4th starter still available.
Yeah, so I think you could make a case that the Dodgers have the edge there in game 4 with Knack in their bullpen. So a lot of talk has been about how much better the Padres pitching is on paper, but I think it's a lot closer than people are giving it credit for.
Yeah, and I think you make the important point, because I just said, hey, you can make the case for this and that. But the reality is that Michael King, who I think is a very, very good pitcher, is not pitching until game 3 and will only pitch one time in this series. Whereas Yamamoto or Flaherty, whoever the Dodgers choose, could theoretically come back in game 5. So the fact that the Dodgers get to put their best 2 guys in games 1 and 2 and the Padres can't, I think does tilt the scales in favor of the Dodgers, or at least makes it very, very close to even. I don't think I would look at anybody who says one way or the other and say you're crazy. So Carolina, thank you for the super chat. It's a great question. And again, King expected to pitch game 3 for the Padres because of that wild card. So my first question to you is best start. We both went with Yamamoto. Give me the relief pitcher for the Dodgers that you think is going to have the biggest impact on this series. The Dodgers relief pitcher that you think is going to have the biggest, I'm going to say positive impact, because I know I'm talking to Blake. Relievers are volatile. Positive
I've been hyping
impact.
up the Dodger bullpen. Come on.
What's that?
I've been hyping up the Dodger bullpen.
Good.
Give me some credit there.
Good. No, I just meant that, like, when I say impact, I've got to clarify that it's a positive impact and not a negative impact. Which Dodger reliever do you think is going to make the biggest positive impact in this series?
I feel like I could go a number of ways with this one. My gut instinct is to say Alex Vesia.
Okay.
Because I know he's had some struggles in the past versus the Padres, and they don't have many left-handed hitters in their lineup to begin with. But if you need a guy to come in and get Jake Cronenworth out, it seems he's always hitting the Dodgers incredibly well. They can never get him out. Like, Vesia comes in a big spot, gets him out. I think that's potential to change a lot of momentum there. Maybe with like Luis Arias coming up before the heart of their order, get Vesia in there. Like, I think the safer answer is probably Michael Kopech is going to be a guy they rely on a lot. So probably is the safe and the right answer there, but I don't know. I'm really high on a lot of these Dodgers relievers, and I think they're going to do a good job and get the job done.
Well, and something that you've been on kind of the entire season, you and Scott, is that the Padres are the 3rd best team against right-handed pitching when it comes to weighted runs created plus. They're 18th against lefties. And so Alex Vesia, Anthony Banda are both guys that I would imagine are going to come up in some big spots and have some, quote unquote, platoon advantages potentially when they do. My answer to this question is Blake Treinen, and that's kind of cheating a little bit because I think Treinen's going to be the fireman. So I think Treinen's going to be the guy that's called upon in the biggest spots. And the last time we saw Treinen, he was throwing Frisbees. And I think the long time off is going to benefit Treinen. And so Kopech, I mean, to your point, I think there's 3 or 4. I think Evan Phillips, I think Kopech, I think Treinen, I think Vesia. I think all 4 of those are in the same bucket of you can make a case for any of them. I'm going to go Treinen just because I think he's going to be in the biggest spots, and I think he's going to do well. So because he performs well in the biggest spots, I'll go Treinen. Okay, number 3 on this list. These aren't in any particular order, and we're going to this is a switch it up a little bit. Which Dodger comes off the bench to get the biggest hit in this series? So of all the guys who are coming off the bench, they're a pinch hit. Maybe it's a platoon thing, but Dodger hitter gets called off the bench, big swing. Who you got?
I know Kike is the obvious answer here, and that's probably the one everyone's going to expect and say. I feel like I'm going to throw out the wild card here and just say like Chris Taylor going to come through.
Okay.
Like, random postseason stuff happens all the time. He's been swinging the bat a lot better recently. He's going to get some opportunities versus lefties. Like, Tanner Scott comes in the game versus they're going to pinch hit with Chris Taylor probably at some point there, and he's going to get the job done. veteran guy, been there before, knows how to get those big hits. But the realistic answer is probably Kike. But yeah, I mean, I think we got to give Chris Taylor some credit here.
Yeah. Look, I kind of wanted to cheat and say Gavin Lux because there's a game where he's not starting, but the Padres, all their starters are right-handed pitchers. And so Gavin Lux probably isn't going to be coming off the bench in any point, which is good news for the Dodgers because I think Gavin Lux against righties gives them the best possible lineup. You nailed it. There's a lot of Kike Hernandez in the chat. Andy Pajes as well, getting some love in the chat. Chris Taylor, I probably owe Chris Taylor for the rest of my life because when he hit the big home run in the wild card game, I basically had spent like the hour prior saying, I can't believe this guy is in the game. Why is he in the game? Please take him out of the game. And then he hits the biggest home run. And so I respect the effort by you, Blake, there not to take Kike Hernandez. I'll just take Kike Hernandez. They brought this guy in because he hits in the postseason. And as much as it was like he's been good during the regular season, seemingly this guy always hits in the postseason. So hopefully he's coming off the bench. Let's say that, because if Freddie Freeman's hurt, then he's not coming off the bench. Let's hope he's coming off the bench and then he gets called into a big spot and comes up big. So, okay. Number 4, which Dodger makes the best defensive highlight? You know, think back to all of the runs that the Dodgers have had. There's typically some sort of iconic defensive moment one way or another. Obviously, with this Dodgers group, I think you can make the case for a handful of different guys, whether it's Miguel Rojas, whether it's even Freddie Freeman, whether it's Mookie Betts, whether it's Tommy Edman. I think you've Will Smith potentially even throwing a guy out or something like that. So I think you've got choices here, Blake. Which Dodger makes the biggest defensive play of this series?
I'll say Tommy Edman, just because regardless of where he's moved around on the field, he's going to be in a premier defensive spot. And we've already seen him make quite a few great defensive plays. I think Miguel Rojas is also a good answer. The injury is a little concerning, but he has been playing through it already this year and has still played quality defense. But I think I'm going with Tommy Edman here.
Okay. It's just like all of my answers are just go back to the well. If a guy has performed well, if the guy has not let you down in the past, then just go back. So we're going with this man right here. Mookie Betts, right field. I'll never forget 2020, a handful of unbelievable defensive plays coming in, throws up against the wall. So I know he's not the right fielder that he used to be. Okay. I know he's not, but we're going Walker Buehler status. Turn back the clock a little bit. Give me Gold Glove Mookie out in right field. And maybe it's a diving catch. Maybe it's a throw. I don't know what it is, but I'll take Mookie Betts there. Okay. 2 more for you here, Blake. All in. Which Dodger has the biggest swing of this series? And normally when we've done X Factor, I've said, you can't take any of these guys, but biggest swing, period, starters included, comes from who?
I mean, isn't it pretty obvious? Like, we all know who the answer is.
Yeah, Will Smith. It's true.
I was going to say Austin Barnes.
Yeah, would you say Austin Barnes?
Yeah, like, his Blake Snell 2020 moment there.
Now, did you say that just because this man just entered into the room and you felt like you needed to give Austin Barnes a shout out because our friend Matthew Moreno is now in? Was that, be honest, Blake, were you sucking up a little bit there?
Oh, it's Austin Barnes, captain playoff performer.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that Austin Barnes doesn't ever bring a bat up to the plate. And if he does, let's hope that bat is either in the bunt formation or just stays glued to his shoulder. I assume, Blake, that we're both going to say Shohei Ohtani. Is that a safe bet?
That is the safe bet. It seems like the moment has found him pretty much every single time throughout this last month, and they just have to hope it continues throughout the playoffs. But I also think there's a case for Mookie here. Team pitches around Ohtani, kind of sets up the go-ahead or winning run because they don't want to pitch to Ohtani, and we've already seen that happen twice.
Yeah.
Mookie comes through after the intentional walk and gets a big hit there. I know a lot of people have doubted Mookie in playoffs this year and for what he's done in previous years, which is fair, but it's still Mookie Betts, and he probably will come through with some hits in the postseason. So I think that is a good answer there.
Matt, I want to pause the conversation because the chat is not pleased with you right now. Madre Matt, we've got in the chat, did Matt forget to wear his brown and yellow today? I mean, I think I know where this is all coming from, but do you want to defend yourself here?
Matt, you want this hat?
Yeah, maybe I should have had Blake loan me the hat when I got the card.
I don't
from
know
him.
how Matt takes this rap when Blake's the guy who's got Padres gear just at the ready.
Okay, but it's LA and Padres Soul Series. It's the cheat code to wearing other logos.
I saw earlier, Matt, it sounds like Alana Rizzo also picked the Padres to win, as well as like 80% of the athletic staff, I believe. So I suppose if you did pick the Padres, you're in good company at least.
Yeah, I mean, the Athletic, I didn't know that Alana did. I think ESPN, the majority of their whoever did their round table picked the Padres. Again, I want to reiterate to everybody who was on the live show with us, I didn't pick the Padres. I said, I'm going to bring balance to our coverage. I don't want us to be accused of being homers only and only having Dodger blue glasses on. So I said, for that reason, I will say the Padres win. But I said, I'm not picking them to win. I'm just saying the Padres will win the series for the sake of bringing balance.
It's just what a guy. What a guy. Balance. All right. We got another super chat, Matt. Then I'm going to run you through some of the questions that I've been asking Blake. And I have one more, and I think it's going to be the one that gets people the most excited's the wrong word. Fired up. We'll just say positively or negatively. Ivan wants to know, Matt, and I'll ask you first. Tomorrow only, game 1, more pressure, Shohei Ohtani at the plate or Yoshinobu Yamamoto on the mound?
It's Yamamoto, I think. I think Ohtani, one, because the Dodgers are the home team, and so Yamamoto's literally going to be on the field before Ohtani, and he can't run into a scenario where he allows the Padres to take a 3-0 lead, 4-0 lead, so there's pressure there. Ohtani, I don't know how much you guys have necessarily.
We haven't talked much about his quotes
Okay.
from today.
Ohtani's ready for the moment, and I mean, I think we had kind of seen that from him, but hearing him today was pretty interesting.
Blake, you agree that there is more pressure on Yamamoto than there is Ohtani tomorrow?
Yes, in the sense that the Dodgers need him to kind of carry their pitching staff. I'd say no in the sense that all eyes are on Ohtani. It's going to be the only focus pretty much throughout the series from every media outlet and everything. The Dodgers, other players have already talked about how it's Ohtani's team and they're just trying to help him win. So I think that does carry a lot of pressure. I think Ohtani, we know, can step up and carry the pressure. He has done it in the past, like in the World Baseball Classic. He's been the most popular player playing baseball in the country he's in for the last 20 years of his life, essentially. So, I think he's a little more used to it. So while the pressure might be greater on him, I still think he's going to be more equipped to deal with it than Yamamoto might be. And that's not to say Yamamoto can't or anything like that. It's just he's still carrying the pitching staff, which is the biggest question mark for this team right now. And he's still kind of rebounding from the injury he had. And there's just more questions around him.
Yeah, I think how we define pressure, to your point, Blake, that you just kind of highlighted, there's a couple different ways to understand this. Which do the Dodgers need more? They probably need Yamamoto to be awesome because of the state of their starting pitching, because of their need for the bullpen. And yet at the same time, if Yamamoto goes 4 innings and gives up 3 earned, and Ohtani goes 0 for 4 with 6 runners, three runners left on base, I know what segment A is going to be on our show. It's Ohtani not coming up big when the moment is there. And so I think if the Dodgers could have one of these guys perform unbelievably well tomorrow, I would personally choose a great start out of Yamamoto rather than kind of a great game from Ohtani, just because of the value I think that would have big long-term in the series. And yet I think more eyes will be fixed on Ohtani and what he does. There will be more scrutiny, would be my sort of perception of this at the very least. So a couple more super chats to get to here. Zip code Zero's got this to say: Ohtani on second, nobody out. Mookie needs to lay it down. Your thoughts? Blake, I'll let you. I'll put this one on a T for you.
No.
No.
Mookie should not be bunting. I don't think the Dodgers should ever really bunt besides maybe once a year type thing. I am very against bunting, and especially not with the number 2 hitter in your lineup. You lay down a bunt with the number 9 hitter or a pinch hitter or something like that. But yeah, they're not going to have Mookie bunt in any situation, especially considering Ohtani could just take third on his own.
Yeah, Fair. And look, I mean, getting a guy once you're at second, getting from first to second is sort of the massive canyon that you need to cross. Getting from second to third obviously helps in the form of a sacrifice fly, but at that point, you just need one of the next 3 hitters to get a single, and Ohtani is scoring. So I'm pretty much anti-bunting in almost every situation, barring a player such as Austin Barnes being at the plate, or do whatever you can to make sure Ohtani comes up again at some point this series. So Mookie's going to be swinging away in that situation, and that's probably what's best for the Dodgers in that situation as well. Super chat here from Laura. Laura says, Matt, is there less or more pressure on the Dodgers because all media is picking San Diego? Does that take the pressure off of the Dodgers? Does this add pressure to the Dodgers? What do you think?
I don't think it necessarily takes pressure off of them, but I do think it puts more pressure on the Padres than we've typically seen in the past. I think the expectations still, like, even though people are picking the Padres to win the series, which I don't understand, if the Dodgers were to lose, that would be the story, that the Dodgers lost. Yeah. How could, they signed Ohtani, they signed Yamamoto, they traded for Glasnow, they did sign Teoscar Hernandez, did all this stuff. And I know Glasnow's not available, but still, like, that would kind of get held against them, I think. And the story would be, I can't believe the Dodgers, look at, they lost again in the NLDS type of thing. So I don't think it necessarily takes any pressure away from the Dodgers. I think it puts a little bit more on the Padres.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, where it's not like there's 100% of pressure and it just needs to be evenly divided.
Right.
I think historically, all of the pressure is on the Dodgers, but the Padres for the first time are going to be facing expectations. So while the pressure is no less on the Dodgers, there's probably more heat. The heat is turned up a little bit hotter in the Padres' kitchen as well. Blake, do you agree with that sort of assessment of things?
I don't think either of the teams are really adding or taking away pressure based on media talking points, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think they're both pretty focused on the job at hand. They both want to win. I don't think ESPN or whoever taking the Padres over the Dodgers is going to change how they feel about the series. I do think there's a lot of irony to it, like what Matt was saying. If the Dodgers lose, it's going to be how they lost, and it's all about the Dodgers choking in the postseason again.
Yeah.
Except everyone ahead of the series is picking the Padres to begin with, so it kind of contradicts each other there. But as we know, in the postseason, there's so much randomness to it. Everyone's picking the hot hand type thing, and the Dodgers are a really good team is my only point here. So they're going to be fine regardless. I don't think they're going to let pressure get to them or anything, and I don't think the Padres are going to either.
Yeah, I think the fact that the media is picking the Padres is great news for the Dodgers, because you better believe Dave Roberts or somebody in the Dodgers organization is going to be like, hey, did you guys know that this team that you guys have kind of owned for the last decade, that 80% of the people out there think they're going to beat you, that they're going to come into your stadium and beat you? There's no chance that the Dodgers are missing that opportunity to make that point. I don't think that relates to pressure, Matt, but I do think this is helpful for the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers are the favorites. All of the pressure, I believe, is still on the Dodgers, because whatever the media says, 80% of the media probably thought they were the only ones that were going to be different in this thing. And it turned out they were all trying to be different. But I think the Dodgers will be the Dodgers fail yet again. That will be the headline. If the Padres lose, that won't be the Padres headline.
Yeah, and that we've already heard a little bit of that from Dave Roberts when he did a Zoom conference with us earlier in the week. He was asked about, what specifically has changed with the intensity and focus that you're seeing from the players this year during the layoff. And one thing he mentioned was sort of alluded to was conversations of, hey, we have the best record in baseball type thing. Where's our respect? And then he brought that up again today in different words. I'd have to pull it up. I apologize. I got back from the stadium and hopped right on with you guys, so I don't have the exact quote up with me, but he did, sort of hint and imply it that, again, the Dodgers are, sort of being disrespected, if you will, or, almost painted as an underdog. I mean, in this at least head-to-head series. And he said he likes the players kind of taking that on and maybe feeding off of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Blake, can we clarify something for the chat? Are you okay? By the way, the chat is very concerned with the heat. They see the flush in your cheeks. They just want to make sure you're okay.
I didn't get a chance to like pre-cool down my office, so it's pretty warm in here. And
Okay.
I don't know. I guess I've been smiling a lot this show too. So yeah.
Wow. Well,
But-
I mean, that is concerning. We're not used to that on this show. There's so many smiles. Somebody said that they thought, this is showbiz. Blake's got a little rouge, I believe is the term, just to get yourself ready for this. But I can assure you, Blake doesn't need that. This is Blake au natural, right?
Yeah, it could be the lighting too. I changed my ring light, so I don't know. Maybe that's affecting it. But I was going to make the joke that the Dodgers have the clip of Matt just saying that the Padres are going to win, playing over and over again in their clubhouse. So bulletin board material right there.
I love it. I love it. All right. So Matt, I'm going to run you through some of the questions that I made Blake answer, and you weren't on for these. So you can choose whoever you want. But which Dodgers starting pitcher makes the best start in this series?
Bueller.
Let's go. He was third on Blake's list. He was pretty much tied for second on mine. We both went Yamamoto, but I respect it. Which Dodgers relief pitcher makes the biggest impact on this series?
Treinen.
There we go. You and I agree on that one. Blake kind of hemmed and hawed between Vesia and Kopech, which is fine, which is fair.
I mean, Treinen's a good pick too.
Yeah, I agree.
Like I said, they have a lot of options in their bullpen that are really good and could be the guys who end up making the impact.
Next one is which Dodger gets the biggest hit off the bench?
Oh, that's easy.
Well,
Kike.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. I said Kike. Blake basically said Kike and then said, I'm not going to choose him because he's too obvious, and went with Chris Taylor.
I mean, that's not an obvious choice if you look at the season Chris Taylor had, but it's an obvious choice if you look at why he's on the playoff roster.
Agreed.
I do think Pajas deserves some love too. They have a few guys who could be that guy. Like we didn't even talk about Pajas, and he's probably the best hitter on their bench. But playoffs are a time for randomness, so pick the random options.
And we didn't talk about Barnes either. Did either of you want to talk about Barnes in this spot?
No.
I was the biggest swing.
That's true.
I was going to add is I'm a realist. I like to I don't like to live in fantasy land, computers and stuff like that. Barnes probably isn't really going to see the field. Kershaw's not pitching, so Barnes getting a start, at least in the NLDS. If they advance, maybe it changes, but I don't really see Barnes getting an at-bat this series.
My guy Vasse called Will Smith the X Factor today, and there were people in the comments that were like, you could just see Jeff's face when he said Will Smith. I'm in. Vasse's in. I'm in. The janitor's back, baby.
Did you promote that interview yet for the chat? Because if they haven't watched it, they need to watch that right after. It's 15 minutes of just intense Vasse hitting all the hot topics.
Yeah, it's like a band that like you go to the Third Eye Blind concert. You referenced this earlier, and it's like you just want to hear them play Jumper. Like just play the hits. We don't care what music you're making in 2024 or that's coming out next. Play the hits. Vasse played the hits for 15 minutes. It was beautiful. I set him up. I said, hey, Padres, they're not letting people buy tickets. And it was just like opening up the floodgates on that guy, and compared them to the Sacramento Kings, which I loved, called them the Madres. It was just gold. So yes, if you missed the Vasse interview, golly, he was golden. So shout out to Matt for coordinating that. That was a great one. And for Vasse for picking Will Smith. Okay.
Real quick.
Go ahead.
Can you name any song from Third Eye Blind besides Jumper, since that's the one you named?
I love Third Eye Blind, so I'm the wrong guy to ask. Semi-Charmed Life, Motorcycle Drive-By. They've got some bangers.
Okay.
I couldn't name one song if it makes either of you feel.
I like Semi-Charmed Life.
You've heard Jumper.
I mean, maybe if you play it, but like off the top of
Blake, you want to sing it for him, or you want me to?
You can, but I believe Matt hasn't heard it. Like, I've went through a lot of my classic rock playlists talking about that with Matt, and he didn't know a lot of them.
Yeah, fair. It's from. Have you seen the movie Yes Man? Is that Jim Carrey where he has to say yes to everything? It's like a 10-year-old movie.
Is that what it was called? I don't remember it being called that, but I feel like I did see like.
But there was one scene where he sings a song like "If You Would Step Back from That Ledge, My Friend." He sings the song to this girl who's about to jump off a building. Anyways, that's the song Jumper.
Let's get back to baseball.
It's a banger. It's all I'm going to say. Okay, which Dodger makes the best defensive highlight of the NLDS, Matt?
Rojas.
Okay. Blake said Edmund. I said Mookie. So great one there. And then biggest swing. We didn't really answer this. Blake and I are, well, Blake's taking Austin Barnes. He wanted to clear. He's now said twice that he's taking Austin Barnes, so I'll let him have that one. Although I think you made a compelling case that Mookie Betts belongs in this conversation because there's a decent chance that if the biggest moment comes to Ohtani, it gets passed. So, Matt, who are you taking? I'll take Ohtani. I'll just take the low hanging fruit here. Matt, do you want to take Ohtani as well?
No, I'll take Teoscar.
Okay. Wow. There we go.
And I will add really quick to who picked. Well, Mookie was kind of an honorary mention for Blake.
He's my real pick.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
After we heard Austin Barnes from him twice. Now Mookie's the real pick.
This is Blake. This is great though, because when Barnes comes up with the biggest hit, we're gonna get the text message. I told you guys, biggest swing of the series, Austin Barnes.
I don't know if you ask a lot of Dodger fans who they're more confident in postseason hitting, Barnes might be higher than Mookie. So.
Jeez, those
it might be a toss-up. Mookie was
he didn't play. Or is that what you just said?
For the fans, not. Okay, I'm saying Mookie did. So Mookie didn't play. At least what we saw last night. Mookie was not an active. Well, he did teach Pages some right field a little bit, but he didn't take any at bats that when the media was allowed to watch the scrimmage last night. But Mookie was taking some swings against Connor Brogdon tonight. So getting ready for the playoffs to be Blake's second pick.
Do we know why he wasn't in the game yesterday?
No. He probably took 200 swings in the cages under the stadium.
I'll leave it alone. I'll wait until the NLDS plays out, and then I'll share my theory.
Okay, perfect. Depending on if it's confirmed or not confirmed by how the game's played. Okay, here's the last one. And this is the one that we haven't gotten to that I think people are going to love. Are we going to get good Dave Roberts or bad Dave Roberts in this series? And this is the question I'm asking. Are we if somebody were to study however many post game shows there are for the NLDS, and they were to count up the number of times that we give Dave Roberts credit for something versus the number of times that we get mad at Dave Roberts for something, which of those two numbers is higher? Matt, I'll come to you first. More good Dave Roberts decisions or more bad Dave Roberts as credited by the people on this show?
Well, like us or our viewers?
Us. I'm not saying it's just like, anybody else. I'm just using the controlled sample. Not that we are better than the next person. I'm just controlling the sample of the three of us, Scott, Daniel, Anthony, the 6 people that would potentially be on this show. Are we giving more credit or more anger for Dave Roberts?
Can we clarify if we're talking about like an actual good decision or just something defensible where we're saying like it wasn't that good bad, decision. But it's fine.
Good decision. Like, hey, I'm glad they let this guy in. I'm glad they bunted here. I'm glad he went to this relief pitcher then. I'm glad he left the starting pitcher in. Something that he gets credit for versus something that we're pissed about. Matt?
Blake's clarification makes it a little bit closer.
Okay.
But I do think it's still like good decision.
Okay, good Dave. Matt's going with good Dave. Blake, good Dave or bad Dave?
Just based on the question, I'm going with bad Dave because like we tend not to ever give the manager praise when something goes right. And every time something goes wrong, they are the ones who get blamed regardless of what happened. Like if Ohtani was up with the bases loaded and he struck out on 3 pitches, we'd somehow find a way to blame Dave. That's just how it goes, right? So I think just in the sense of how much we're going to be crediting him or saying we didn't like that decision, it's going to be more toward the bad Dave side. If we were saying it's a defensible decision and we're throwing that in the good side, then I'll probably take that side. But with my clarification, I'm going with bad.
I'm going good Dave simply because I think this is the easiest team that he has had to manage from the perspective of, I think he has a lot of good options in the bullpen. And I think the pinch hitting options are like very obvious situations. Like, I think there's almost no scenario where one of the starters is getting pinch hit for, unless it's like a lefty comes in to face Gavin Lux or something. So like, it's not like he's having to platoon guys every single time. It's pretty much going to be the same starting 9 every single time, especially because they've got pretty much all righties. And then it's like, well, when a lefty comes in to face, Lux or whoever, then you're going to get the pinch hitting opportunity. And I think there's just like 4 guys that I really trust in the bullpen. So if they go to like Trinan instead of Evan Phillips or Phillips instead of Kopech or whatever, like I'm not really going to be too frustrated about that. So my guess, good Dave, because there's less bad decisions out there for him to make. Now, when Joe Kelly, like if Joe Kelly comes into a high leverage spot while Blake Trinan and Michael Kepbeck are watching on, that's going to be a good decision in Matt Moreno's mind because he trusts Joe Kelly. But that might outweigh all. If he does that one time, it might outweigh 10 good decisions. I'm just saying in my own mathematical calculation. Okay, Matt? I'm just warning you on that one. I know you like and trust Joe Kelly. I think you're the only one on the trust side. We all like Joe Kelly. I don't think any of us trust him. So
even if that works, you're gonna still hold it against him.
Yeah, I'm a fair man. I don't play the results. You know, I stick with this is my read on the situation, and we don't change. We're no moving the goalposts afterwards. You know, right. Zip code 0. Does bad Dave Roberts get fired if there's no World Series? Well, Blake, you're the only one we could ask because Matt and I think he's going to be great in this series. So
I do want to clarify. I think he's going to do a good job. I'm not like predicting he's going to make a bunch of mistakes. I just think from the sense of your question about are we going to be complaining about things or addressing them, I think it's just we tend to lean more to criticisms of managers than positive for them. So that's just how I'm answering that. I do think he's going to do fine. Regarding if he gets fired if they don't win, I think it really depends on the situation. If they get swept in the NLDS by the Padres and he brings in Joe Kelly with the bases loaded while Trinan's warm or something like that, then like, yeah, that's a move. You talk about firing him. I think if the Dodgers are really flat again and you don't see much life or energy to them, I think that's another time where you can talk about like, do we need a new voice in the clubhouse? Do we need to make a change here to just mix something up because we can't keep doing the same things over and over again? If they lose in a heartbreaking Game 5 where Kopech's on the mound and gives up a walk or a homer that ends up winning the game for the Padres, like I don't think you can really blame Dave Roberts for that, and I think they'd stick with him through that point.
Okay. All right. Well, let's thank you for the question, Zip Code 0. Thank you to everyone as always joining us live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. We're going to get to some questions in a little bit, but first, we've got boots on the ground, Matthew Moreno, who is back from the workout, back from some interviews and whatnot today. So, Matt, give us the news and notes from Friday's workout as we are less than 24 hours away from NLDS Game 1.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing was Freddie Freeman going through kind of a full workout. We have the video up on our YouTube channel, so definitely check it out once we're done here. He did some sprints sort of up the first base line, and he was kind of warming up, and then he took some grounders, and honestly, he was moving laterally much better than I would have guessed.
Okay.
After that, he did then like kind of run to first base, and then he ran from first to third base as if, you know, maybe somebody hit a single type thing. And there wasn't a whole lot. I mean, I know he's not like a burner anyway, but he wasn't moving very quickly when he did that. We did get a chance to talk to him after, and he said that, you know, overall he felt okay today. I think the biggest thing he revealed is that the training staff told him basically the sprained ankle that he has is a 4 to 6 week injury. So hearing that, like, to me, I mean, and it's not surprising. Like, we all saw the picture of, you know, his ankle completely rolled over when he hurt it, unfortunately. So my guess is he's got a pretty significant, you know, high ankle sprain, probably some swelling in the foot. He did say the swelling has gone down. Every indication that he's going to be in the lineup. It's just a matter of, you know, how limited is he going to be? And that's not something that Freddie or the Dodgers really are going to know until the game is being played, unfortunately. And so, you know, if a ball is hit to his right or left and he tries to move and it's just not quite there, then that'll be an answer. But I was honestly, all things taking in, especially hearing from him, like how significant the injury is. Like, I think today was definitely a good day for him.
Yeah, I Vasse had like, hey, this is a guy that they'd have to take his foot off for him not to be playing. And Blake, one thing that when Vasse said that, I know what Freddie's kind of reputation is as kind of a more emotional guy, you know, crying, all that kind of stuff, and his friends and being sad and all that. Like, I think there is something to Blake that Freddie Freeman doesn't get enough credit for how tough he is. This is a guy that plays every single day, and I know it's first base and it's not as tough as center field or something like that, but he's got broken fingers. He's back in there pretty quickly. Like, I do think there's something to that. This is probably a tougher player than we give him credit for.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think one of his other quotes was he called it the toughest injury he's ever tried to play through, which also pretty telling there. Like, he is a guy who's played through a lot, and he's always in the lineup. He's put a lot of pride in playing 162 games, or sometimes 161 if they forces him to take a day off every year. So yeah, I do give him a lot of credit for that. Baseball is a very long season with a grueling schedule. I know, like, me and Matt feel the effects of that, just going to cover the games, being there pretty much every day, and we're not even playing. So I'm sure it's tenfold what Freeman's going through and feeling through the long season. And yeah, he gets a lot of credit for being in there all the time.
I think the other thing with this too, Blake's comment reminded me, this is the first sprained ankle Freddie Freeman said he's ever had, which I was going to ask him, do you have experience with these injuries? Like, do you sort of know, like, hey, I just need to get past like 1 week and then I kind of turn a corner? But before I could even get to that, he kind of just volunteered that it was the first time he's ever sprained his ankle. And so he's kind of learning what that entails, which that bogged my mind.
Let me ask you this, because when you were telling me Freddie Freeman was talking, I was like, I think I believe Freddie Freeman more than anybody else. Like, if I could get any Dodger player to give a accurate update of themselves, I think Freddie Freeman would be number one, where I'd be like, all right, well, Freddie Freeman says it. It must be true. Like, it would, I mean, Matt, is there somebody that you could think of that you would believe more to tell you the truth about themselves?
Mookie.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Mookie just kind of says it and pisses people off at times. Blake, is Mookie number one on your list?
Probably. I don't think it's Freeman, because like what Andrew Friedman, I think it was Friedman, was saying about him, it could have been Gomes, was like, he's not giving them much info. Like, when he's talking to them about it, he's just like, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm going to play, don't worry about it. Like, that seems very much him. Regarding who the most honest is about their injuries, that could be a toss-up. Not entirely sure, but it probably is Mookie.
I love that.
Well,
don't tell the doctors, Freddie. Don't tell them the truth. We need you out there, buddy.
Not just injuries, just everything. Regardless.
I think Will Smith would be another one. I feel like he's pretty honest about. Well, actually, no, I take that back, because he had
didn't tell us the broken ribs or
That's
the
right.
he had the concussion.
He would have to
too,
use
right?
words in order to be able to tell you things about himself, and so that's where I think the disconnect would come. Is giving a long enough answer to actually get to the truth about things.
I think Blake Trinan was really honest about his whole injury. He was really open about everything, and same with Walker Buehler. He was really open and honest, so probably one of them.
Yeah, fair. Matt, anything else from the workouts today? I mean, we mentioned the Ohtani quotes about sort of the excitement being greater than any anxiety that he might feel. That was a big one that kind of made the rounds on social media. Was there anything else that jumped out to you from players that spoke or the workout?
Yeah, I mean, I think just to kind of expand on the Ohtani thing, he was asked, and obviously he's sitting up there with Will Ireton, and so he's being asked the question in English by Jack Harris of the LA Times, who we've had on here, I think definitely once, maybe even 2 or 3 times, if he was nervous for his postseason debut. And before Will Ireton could even start translating, Ohtani said no in English. Yeah. And so, like, that obviously, like, we don't really hear him speak English, and so the room like started laughing. And I mean, he like his he just said no, like, and that was it. Like, I'm just not. And there's no, like, his body language, his facial expression, and it kind of gave you some insight into, like, it truly is like robotic and genuinely like I think Blake, you'll have to, I don't want to misquote you, but one of the most talented players, I think maybe or the most talented player we've ever seen type thing. Like, he truly is. And I've shared this opinion with you guys. Like, what I feel we saw from him the last couple of weeks was the equivalent of a basketball player taking over a game and just saying, like, we're not going to lose. I'm going to make sure we win.
Yeah.
And this sort of like fed into that. And then he was asked, I think Fabian Ardaya of The Athletic, who I know we've had on here several times, what allows him to basically not be nervous heading into his first playoff game? Is it that, he played in WBC, stuff like that? And that was where, to your point, he's just said, like, the excitement just outweighs, and he's wanted to be in this position for his entire life, that it basically outweighs any other emotion that he could possibly feel. And I do think, maybe we should have actually mentioned Ohtani when we were saying players that you could kind of trust what they're saying. I think he's in that mold, and I think we saw some of that today.
He still hasn't told us what elbow surgery he had.
Oh,
so
well, fine. It was Tommy John. Revision.
Was it though? We don't know.
We'll never know. All right. Anything else, Matt, before we get to some questions here? Any other sort of news and notes, things that were interesting that you came up to on today?
No, I mean, I think that's the main stuff. If there's anything specific, we're asking for questions. So if you guys want to know something specific, throw it in the chat.
I have one for Matt. So yesterday when me and Scott were on talking about the first workout they did, I kind of called it out as saying I didn't see more intensity from the team like they were talking about. So I wanted your thoughts on that. Did you see more intensity yesterday? And was it different today at all?
No and no. And I'll expand on that after the NLDS, because there's some interesting things that I think have happened that maybe we could reference, but we'll see.
Teaser. Wow.
Yeah.
Keep people coming back.
Keep people coming back, I guess. All right, throw some questions in the chat. All caps questions on the front end, and we'll get to it. I mean, I'll say this. I do feel like if something happens, we look backwards and we can explain what happened. Now, you guys are making these statements on the front end, so I'm not accusing you of revisionist history here. I'm just saying, like, it sounds like you're seeing things that make you believe that the Dodgers will fail in the same way they don't. And so if they win, what will those things mean?
That's fair. And I think the better way for me to answer this question right now is the scrimmage that they had yesterday, the workout they had yesterday, the workout that we saw today is not different than last year or the year before that when this expanded postseason format started.
Yeah.
Do I think that would end up being the reason that they lose? No. I think the only reason, for me at least, and probably for Blake, that it's something we're sort of like tuned into and really honing in on is because of what we keep hearing from Dave Roberts about it. And Brandon Gomes, for that matter. Andrew Friedman, I think, to a lesser extent. But
saying that they're going to try and ramp up the intensity, they're going to try and do something different. And you're saying, hey, I'm seeing the same thing. I'm not telling you that's why they lost in years past, but why are you telling me you're trying something new or you're seeing something new and I'm not seeing it?
Right. And more specifically to the point with tonight's workout, security did come and kick us out of the press box, so the stadium was closing. But the Dodgers did play, when Blake and I were there yesterday, we did see them starting an inter squad game. Tonight, it was just live ABs. There's nobody out on the field. It was just the pitcher, Brogdon, facing Mookie, Lux, and maybe somebody else was going to get in there. I didn't see who was on deck. Where we had been hearing from the Dodgers that they took Monday off, Tuesday was a voluntary workout, and then they were going to build up the intensity with scrimmages and inter-squad games leading into Saturday and not necessarily scale back on Friday, which is what they did last year and the year before. So I just, more than anything, would like some clarity from the team on like what happened. And look, is it possible that they kicked the media out and then started their inter-squad game? Sure. Do I think that that's likely? No.
What we saw from the inter squad game yesterday, it seemed less intense than the year before. I'd say that. They had coaches playing the outfield and running the bases for them. Mookie wasn't suited up for whatever reason. He wasn't playing. He was coaching during the game. They were making Miguel Rojas toss a throw to first base that he would never do in a game. It was just a bunch of little things that added up that make me question the intensity part. And to be fair about it, I said, if the Padres had their practice, they probably weren't they wouldn't be that much different than the Dodgers. It's really hard to build the atmosphere and intensity of a MLB game, especially the postseason, in one of these workouts. But if you're going to keep talking about having intense workouts, go do it. Don't have coaches in the outfield. Make it a competitive game. Get your regular season pitchers out there. Yesterday, they were facing Tony Gonsolin and Bobby Miller from what we saw. The year before, they were facing all that.
Bobby Miller's a regular season pitcher for them this year.
They were last year, they were facing the guys who were going to be on the postseason roster. This year, they were facing the guys they called up from AAA or are rehabbing. So, I don't see how there's more intensity there if that's what you're doing. So, I don't think it's going to be the difference. But when you're talking about it, you have to show that as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Blake. And that's helpful for somebody like me who isn't at these, because again, I think we can look at these, and then if Mookie goes, 1 for 12, it's it's because he wasn't trying hard enough in the scrimmage, when it's we have no proof that trying harder in the scrimmage was the difference. But to your point, I think it is, if the Dodgers are making a big deal out of it, and then the people that are there are wait, they keep telling me that they've changed the Dodger dogs, and it's the same Dodger dog that I've been eating for the last 6 months. then you're just bringing attention to something that people are already potentially irritated about.
Buddy, I have some bad news for you. They did change the Dodger dog, but it is pretty much the same. It still sucks.
Okay, there you go. There you go. We know. Okay, Caesar salad's still okay for you there, Matt?
I haven't had it this season, unfortunately. I don't think.
I thought they had it your first game back.
I didn't eat it. I don't think I ate it though.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Roster stuff. Alex wants to know, is Kiermaier going to make the NLDS roster? Blake?
No, I think he was an option if Rojas or Freeman weren't going to be ready, but with them both trending in the right way, I don't think he's going to make it.
And then do you have Enriquez as the last bullpen guy?
I have like Joe Kelly or Daniel Hudson as the last bullpen guy.
Okay, those guys, I don't think there's really a conversation. Do you think like Enriquez makes the roster? Let me ask it to you that way.
I would say it's closer to a lock than anything.
Okay, Matt, you agree?
With Enriquez?
Yeah.
Yes.
Who are I know that they keep guys that are around the team, just so the people know. Who are the other guys that like have lockers that could potentially be on this roster?
Bobby
I
Miller.
didn't see. Yeah. Well, yeah. But yeah, Bobby Miller, Michael Grove. I didn't see if he had a locker, but the Slender Man, Connor Brogdon, he's pitched. I think, did he pitch yesterday too, Blake? Do you remember? Did we see him, or
Not
was he
that
just
we
warming
saw.
up?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No.
So Brogdon pitched tonight. He's basically spent all season on the 60-day IL, so that's kind of interesting.
Like our Kasparius, Robleski, are those guys around?
Kasparius had a locker. Robleski pitched last night, but I didn't see if he had a locker in the clubhouse.
Honeywell had a locker, but he's on the injured list, so he can't be activated for the series.
Gratterall's around, but he can't either.
Because
Did you say Grove?
When I was talking to Greg Bergman, I said I think I agree with your assessment, Blake. I think Enriquez makes the roster. Hudson, Kelly, all those guys. Robleski is the one. I feel like the Dodgers, it feels like there's 50% of the time there's a curveball. We're like, oh man, nobody predicted that. We talked about the splits and how much worse the Padres are against left-handed pitchers than they are against righties. And I know Robleski's not been good. Like, this has nothing to do with Robleski other than that he's a lefty and a guy who could potentially give them more than one inning if they got into a pinch. Blake, you think less than 1% chance that it's somebody other than Enriquez?
Yeah, I especially Robleski. He didn't show much of anything during the regular season besides an inning eater that was giving up.
Last two outings were good.
They weren't like versus quality opponents though.
Okay, fair.
So like, I don't think he earned enough to be on the postseason roster just because he's left-handed or anything. If he was maybe like a mid-3, low-4 ERA guy, then sure, you can talk about it, but he was not very good this year at all.
And my argument was simply he's left-handed because like I would, so for what it's worth. TQT. Matt, do you guys watch Dodger playoff games differently than regular season ones? I only watch them on offense because I'm way too anxious when they're pitching. I'm a wreck. I would say I'm a total wreck. Not to the level of I just step away from the game for half innings at a time. I watch the entirety of the game, but I am way more anxious personally. Matt, what about you?
No, I'm pretty much about the same. I mean, in the press box, you can't like really overreact anyway. I know Blake and I had a good time watching the couple games or the one game, I guess it ended up being when Lance Lynn made postseason history out at Chase Field last year. But other than kind of talking to the person next to you, like, can you believe this, that, or the other? Like, it's not too many, outward reactions to anything.
So you're telling me I wouldn't be allowed to pace around like I do in my living room, sometimes crouching down, getting close to the screen. That wouldn't be allowed, you don't think?
Yeah, no, you'd be escorted right away by security.
I'd have to control myself. Okay,
the screens are on the ceiling, so if you were crouching close to them, you'd need like a ladder too or something. It would be pretty awkward.
Good to know in case they ever invite me. Good to know. TYY when? Vacationing in Toronto. The hot topic here is Teoscar signing with the Blue Jays again in free agency. Do you think the Dodgers offer him a 3 or 4 year extension, Blake?
I don't think they'd go 4. I think 3 would be pushing it for them. I think they prefer 2, and they're going to offer the qualifying offer to begin with and see if he takes that first.
Okay. Matt?
Yeah, I see 2 or 3.
I think the qualifying offer is going to hurt him.
Just to nitpick really quick. I mean, it says extension. I don't know if he just means like let him get free agency and re-sign him. But if you're asking in terms of a new contract for Teoscar Hernandez before free agency starts, like that's not happening.
Okay.
They'll wait till Soto signs also.
With the Dodgers or somewhere else, Blake?
We'll see.
Miguel and Brenda, the Dodgers will win games 1, 3, and 4 for sure. You'll see. I'm calling it. You will remember this comment. Matt disagrees. Matt's not predicting that you're wrong. He's saying that you're wrong, I believe is the language. Did I get that right, Matt?
No,
you said it's going to happen. You're not predicting it's going to happen. You're just saying it's going to happen.
No, I'm not picking the Padres. I'm just saying Padres to say it. And we live, unfortunately, in a society where a lot of people say a lot of things without any repercussions. This is on the smaller scale of that, but I'm sort of leaning into that a little bit.
Blake, I don't know if I've heard specifically from you. Do you have the Dodgers in 4?
I said Dodgers in 5, and it was just purely vibes based.
I like that. I said Dodgers in 5 as well. So Miguel and Brenda, if you get that right, then Blake and I will have gotten it wrong, and Matt will have definitely got it wrong. GI wants to know, what would it take for the Dodgers to sit Freeman, or even worse, take him off the roster? It sounds like, Matt, there's no chance he's off the roster.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up first and foremost. Is Dave Roberts keeps saying that Freeman's going to be on there, even if he, for whatever reason, has lingering soreness and can't start game 1, be in the lineup. He's going to be on the roster because you're not going to risk. At the very least, he would be able to be a pinch hitter. So, what would it take for him to sit? I mean, he'd have to tweak his ankle while warming up for game 1 or something like that.
Yeah, an inability to walk, I think, is the answer to that question. Rod wants to know, how did Rojas look, Matt?
Yeah, really good. I mean, I know Blake was saying he wasn't making a whole bunch of throws. He did make one kind of running, jumping for sort of no apparent reason other than I can do it. But he was moving around really, and this was for Thursday's workout during their scrimmage game. He was moving around really well.
Blake, you got to see him too, right?
I said, yesterday on our show with Scott, I said, I think Rojas would look the best out of everyone on the field because he was the only one actually looking like he was putting an effort to the games.
Oh, you didn't mean best because his new hair?
No, I did not mean that.
But
he's got a new
look. Are you interested in meaning that as well, Blake?
I mean, are we saying best on the team, or are we saying
sure, best hair on the team? Better. Who you got, Blake?
I mean, it's Tyler Glass now.
On the team. 26-man roster, buddy.
Then I don't know. I don't think there's
Honeywell.
anyone.
First of all, Honeywell's
not. He's on the IL.
I agree. I'm saying if you're going to include Glass now, then Honeywell should be included, and he's better. So if none of those guys are available, and Gonsolin's not available, I don't know if you're a Gonsolin hair guy. I know you're a cat hair guy, but do you have a pick for the 26-man roster? And is it Miguel Rojas's new hair?
Still say probably no. I don't know if anyone's hair really stands out on the team at this point. Rojas stands out. It stands. I mean, from me picking perspective, I don't know. No one really comes to mind.
Kopech?
Jay Bear says Knack has nice hair, which is I could see that.
You don't Kopech, the man bun?
Not a huge fan of that.
Okay.
So if we're going personal preference.
Next question.
I don't know. I think these are the important things
now.
Matt. If we see the Dodger blue Jeep in the parking lot, where do we leave the rubber duck? This is a weird Jeep thing, so I'll let you answer that.
I think it's supposed to be on the mirror, but I'm not sure. I have just been informed about it when I started driving the Jeep, when my friends told me about that tradition. Then I looked it up. I know Foco, our friends over there, make Dodger ducks, so maybe one of those, but that might get stolen pretty easily there if that's put on there. So I don't know. Surprise us,
Carolina
I guess.
says on the door handle.
Okay. Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Wherever, Sean the Bomb, wherever you want to leave the duck is fine. We'll take a picture and we will thank you if it was you who did it.
Leave a little note, sign it.
Yeah. Yeah. And because then you guys are supposed to be leaving ducks on other Jeeps, right? Isn't that part of the deal?
Yeah, I guess so. But I think when you get the duck, you put it in your windshield there, on the dashboard. So then you have a collection going there, but we have not got a duck yet. Disappointing. I keep waiting. I'm hoping.
Okay. Someday. Maybe. How many do you think Blake has lost on the freeway? Because they put it in the place where Blake wasn't looking, and that thing just took a trip.
Hopefully it's 0.
Okay. All right. So Prediction time. Blake says Padres or Dodgers in 5. There you go. Carolina. I say Dodgers in 5. Matt is not predicting this himself, but he is saying Padres in
4.
Oh gosh, I love it. It's just full heel.
Just
It's
take
just
the
leaning
sweep.
all the way into it.
Just take the sweep to avoid
No,
all
that's-
Don't be a coward, Matt.
bias.
No,
Don't be
that's
a
what
coward.
I was talking to somebody today while we were waiting for the interviews, and that if either team were to sweep, that would be the only outcome, like in seriousness, that surprises me from this series. Like I don't think either team is going to get swept. If the Dodgers win, like it wouldn't fully shock me if they win in 4, if they win in 5. If the Dodgers sweep the Padres, I would be surprised, and likewise if the Padres were to sweep the Padres, like that would surprise me. I don't see that happening. I think the series is very much like like a coin toss.
Blake, do you agree? I've been saying I think these are the 2 best teams in baseball. Do you agree?
Yeah, I don't think it's all that close. I will say, though, to Matt's no one would expect it would surprise him thing, that same kind of thing happened last year. No one expected a sweep from one side, at least.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Okay, a couple more super chats. Freeman is going to have a Kirk Gibson moment. Somebody commented this on the Vassay interview, and I thought it was pretty funny. Hopefully, Freddie Freeman plays more than Kirk Gibson did. Although, look, if it ends up in the same way the Kirk Gibson thing did, I will not be complaining. So that would be awesome, Daniel. Hopefully, he plays a ton and then limps around the bases anyways, even though he's like played. And that's the key here, right? You don't have to run the bases if you hit the ball over the fence. So just do that, Freddie, and then you can, take a 28-second trot around the bases.
Yeah,
Eduardo wants to know. What's that?
That would be advised.
Yeah, so pass that on. If you guys get a chance to talk to him at all, you could just let him know I suggested that. Eduardo Diaz wants to know predictions on Cease and Yoshi's final line game 1. Blake, let's start with Yoshinobu Yamamoto. You said you think he gets past 5.0 innings. So give me a prediction for final line.
5 2/3, 2 runs allowed, 5 hits, no walks, 5 strikeouts.
To be clear, that's over a 3 ERA, which your prediction was he was going to have an under 3 ERA.
Yeah, but this is just the first start. He's going to get more.
So he's making, got it. You said Dodgers in 5, so he's making, got it. Okay. So 5
Well,
2/3.
I mean, for the playoffs combined, like he's going to have his NLCS and World Series starts in my world here.
I like this. I like Blake's world. So 5 2/3, 2 earned is your prediction, Matt. Blake, who's coming in to get the last out in the 6th?
It's going to be my guy Vesia. We're going back to my earlier pick from the show.
Okay.
Flashback, callback to your moment, whatever you want to call it. And he's going to get Jake Cronenworth out with a runner or 2 on. Dave's going to go out, get him. And Vesia is going to pitch that inning and then take the next one.
Oh, gosh. Our nightmares. Matt, Yoshinobu Yamamoto line.
4 1/3. I think 2 runs allowed also.
Didn't you say 5 last time we talked with Sebastian? And then he said 5
Then
1/3. Or you said 5 1/3 and he said 5.
Okay. So 5 1/3, 2 runs allowed.
Okay, so we've got 5 2/3. We've got 5 1/3. I think 5 innings, 1 earned. That's my prediction for Yamamoto. Cease, I'm going to go exact same line he had last time. 5 innings, 3 earned. I think is Cease's line in this one. Matt?
I agree with that.
Okay, Blake?
I'm going to say 4 innings, 4 runs.
Let's go.
We're still going to say like 6 strikeouts because that's what he does, but he's also going to walk 3.
Okay, I like it. Hey, if the Dodgers can get to the top of the 6th with a 4-1 lead in this scenario, or I guess 4-2 in some scenarios here, that'd be great. That'd be great. Hand it over to the bullpen. Give me Trinan. Give me Phillips. Give me Kopech. Bang, bang, bang. Shut this thing down. So, all right, everybody. That'll do us. Iris wants to know if I'm betting tomorrow on any of the games. I hope not. I don't know. I hope not. Let's I'm going to be enough of a wreck. I don't need financial incentives here at all. We will be live post game. Matt, I'm doing the post game show. Who's doing it with me?
Probably Blake, maybe Daniel.
Okay, great.
Maybe Anthony will be, or I don't know. I think Anthony actually might be.
Saturdays are non-normal day. So I'll be here at least with at least one person who will be doing the game with me. So that should be fun. Make sure to join us. What's that?
Could just be you.
Might just be me.
You in the chat.
If they lose and Dave screws it up and you send me to the Wolves by myself, No promises on what
Okay.
happens on the show.
If the Dodgers win, I'll join in. If they lose, it's just going to be Jeff. So
No,
that's the
don't
plan.
do that to me.
We've just
don't
said
do
it.
that to me. Yeah, don't do that to me. So we'll be here. I will be here. One person at least will be with me, and it'll be good. So make sure you join us. Blake, you think the Dodgers win tomorrow?
Well, you didn't let me finish the rest.
Okay.
After Vesia comes in and gets the next inning, then Dave goes to like Brazier or something, and he's good too. But then, no, I think the Dodgers win.
Okay, Matt. Madre Matt.
Yeah, Dodgers win tomorrow.
There
So-
we go.
You have the Padres winning the next 3 after the Dodgers take the first one. The same as
No,
2022.
Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
You
Blake.
guys keep trying to box me in. Again, I'm not picking the Padres. I'm just saying Padres. And so then when I give you my real pick, you're not paying attention to that
You
one.
haven't said Dodgers are going to win yet. So all we hear, we're just going off what you're saying. Like if Dave Roberts tells us someone's going to be playing and then they're not, we can't like be saying the other thing.
Okay.
Can I ask real quick?
Dodgers
Food
win game
question.
1.
Thank you to everybody. I have a food question. Somebody tweeted at us saying nothing beats orange chicken at Panda Express, like Matthew Moreno says. Is there
No.
anybody that disagrees with this?
Yes.
Well, a lot of people did, but I also I wanted to make sure that the context was fully understood. When I sent that out, it was in response to an article saying like some other Chinese food place was going to pose some threat to Panda Express. And my point was there is no threat because if you're talking Chinese food, Panda Express, their orange chicken, like there's nothing better than that. Not like if you include In-N-Out and all these other places. It was specifically for that. And so I explained it then on one of our live shows after the fact. I'm not sure. I did see that tweet. I'm not sure if the person was mocking me or agreeing, but I do stand by Chinese food, Panda Express orange chicken. You're not beating it.
that makes it
We
take
can
even
debate
worse for me.
if orange chicken is actual real Chinese food. But Blake,
Well,
go ahead.
okay.
There's so many good like local Chinese restaurants you can go to and get real good orange chicken.
I've tried.
Like I know 3 of them around me within 10 minutes that are all better than Panda. Like if Matt said it's the best fast food item, then sure. Like I wouldn't agree with it, but at least it's a reasonable take. If you're saying that Panda is better than local Chinese restaurants you can go to, like that's the top 3 worst take of all time.
I'll agree with Matt. I think the best orange chicken I've ever had is at Panda Express. Pretty
Thank
much
you.
any other menu item that they have, I would take from my local Chinese place.
Yeah, fine. I think what we should talk about, what we should end with, is Blake letting the people know how he ruined a perfectly good cup of horchata last night
that
from
was
the
so
taco
good.
place.
Oh God!
I got a
put
pumpkin
chocolate in it.
spice horchata and it
Oh
was so
my
good.
gosh! What is
They
wrong
had
with
it
you?
like they had a ad on like the screen where you order, and then they had a giant ad on the top where the menu is, and I was like, I'm gonna try it. Why not? I'll probably
Good.
never get to try it again. It was really good.
Where was this?
Guisados, the taco place down the hill from the
I was
stadium.
hoping you were going to say Panda Express. I was hoping Blake got pumpkin spice horchata from Panda Express. That would have been perfect. Would you order pumpkin spice horchata from Panda Express if they served it, Blake?
Probably not. No.
Okay, good. Good. It's good to know. I'm out on all pumpkin things. Are you an anti-pumpkin thing or just pumpkin horchata, Matt?
I mean, I don't like pumpkin pie. I'll eat
You like-
pumpkin seeds occasionally.
But you're not a pumpkin spice latte guy.
No, not at all. But I also like I don't drink any coffee.
Got it. So you wouldn't have. Yeah.
So, but it was more just like you don't take perfectly good horchata and put pumpkin spice in
To
it.
be fair to Blake, if they're selling it at this spot that you took him to,
because
it's kinda
there are
on them.
because there are suckers like Blake who they know are going to
Well.
pay for it.
It was
Yeah.
so good.
Okay.
I
Anyways,
would order
there
it
you go.
again. I would go back just for that.
Okay. Good stuff, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, this is DodgerHeads presented by DodgerBlue.com. Matt mentioned it. If you're on our YouTube page right now, which most of you are, over almost 1,400 people, stick around. Tons of videos from today's workouts, interviews, that stuff from Matt. If you missed the interview that I had with David Vassay, I promise you, 15 minutes you will not regret. He's hilarious. Just electricity running through that man's veins in that one. So be sure to check that out. And of course, join us tomorrow, post-game show after game 1. Stay tuned. Maybe even a surprise show in the morning. Not saying there will be, not saying there won't be. Okay. So make sure you've got notifications on, ring the notification bell, subscribe to get that kind of content. That is Blake Williams. That is Matthew Moreno. I am Jeff Spiegel, folks. Enjoy the rest of your night. As always, go Dodgers.